Hello, my brothers and sisters. I am Deacon Steve, and I serve as a deacon under Pastor Phil Ressler at the Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd. Phil and I were having lunch a few weeks back, and we were talking about 2017 and how we can further reach more Christians out there or help to influence people to lead a Christ-filled life. And one of the things as we were discussing is talking to fellow entrepreneurs, as I myself am an entrepreneur. My professional name is Steve the Hurricane, and I own a 7-figure business. And I can tell you with no doubt at all, my business is successful because of my faith. And so I decided as we were speaking to put together a series, and you will see these videos once a month coming out regularly through the Greater Things newsletter. This series is designed for people out there who are entrepreneurs to follow their faith and let their faith lead them in their business. It's also designed for people who are future entrepreneurs, who want to start a business, who want to take that leap of faith, but they're afraid to. They're not sure they have the know-how or if they're going to be able to make it. And so I'm here to encourage you to use the talents that the Lord gave you to follow your heart and do what you were born and meant and destined to do. And so, with that being said, this is the pilot episode of Entrepreneurs for Christ, as this is designed to follow the teachings of Christ, the teachings of the Bible, and how you can apply it to everyday business needs to help you grow your business. Now, in the pilot episode of Entrepreneurs for Christ, we're going to talk about the scriptures pertaining to the parable of the many talents. This is in the book of Matthew later on, before Christ's crucifixion, but towards the end of his ministry where he talked about these talents. Now, in this parable, as you read through it, you'll see on the screen below the actual scriptures that you can reference and read on your own. But the way it's portrayed is Jesus mentions a wealthy man, a well-off man, somebody who was a lord who had many, many gifts, much money, wealth, power, everything. And as he leaves to go on a journey, he gives to 3 different servants talents. He takes 10 talents, he gives 5 to one servant, he gives 2 to another servant, and then he gives 1 to another servant. And as he leaves, when he comes back, to the first servant who received 5 talents, he stands before the Lord, the master, and he says, "Lord, you gave me 5 talents, and I gave you back 5 more. So here's 10 talents. And then the master is pleased with his servant, and he gives him responsibility and greatness and wealth and authority because he took his money, or he took his talents, and he doubled them upon his return. When the servant comes to receive 2 talents, he comes back and he doubles it and has 4 talents. And so the master and the Lord is pleased with him, and he gives him a great abundance, and he gives him great power and everything else. To the servant who received 1 talent, though, this individual was afraid of the master and was afraid that he would lose his money, lose his talent, or use it poorly. So he buried it in the sand. And when he comes back, he just gives him back his talent that he received. And the master was mad at this. He says, "Why would you do that? You could have put it in the bank, and I could have received interest plus what I originally gave you. At the very least, that's what I could have been given." And so instead of being happy with his servant, he's angry with his servant, and he casts him out into the darkness. Now, how does this apply to us? For me personally, when I read this, I interpret this as we as individuals, we're given spiritual gifts. We are given God-given natural talents. Every single one of us. Now, some of us may only have 1 God-given talent. Some of us may have multiple talents. I know myself, I have at least 4 or 5 talents, and so I do many different things. Now, there's 2 parts to this. To the person who may feel, well, I only have 1 talent, why do I only have 1 talent? As a person who has many talents, I will tell you, it's a blessing to have 1 talent, because then you can focus in on that, and it brings a simplicity, but then it also brings a happiness and a joy because you are using your God-given talent in a way that's in favor, in accordance with God's will. To the person with many talents, there's more responsibilities placed upon, but again, we were created to handle more, and we can do more with it. And so as long as it's all within accordance with God's will, you're going to receive that life abundance. There's an amazing book that I read called The Circle Maker, and it was written by a pastor. I believe he was in the DC area, and he talked about his church, talked about his ministry and all these other things, but he talked about his faith. There was something I will never forget that he said in there. It was a quote, and he said, "Pray like it's on God, work like it's on you." And so I always took that to heart when I read this book, because it made me think, like, I'm going to pray like it's on God, like it's on the Almighty. He's going to take care of it. He's going to make it happen. But I'm going to work like it's on me. Now, he gave me these talents. He gave me these abilities. He gave me these personality traits. He gave me the drive, the wisdom, the discernment. He gave me all of that as a blessing. And then I applied that in my business, and my business was able to grow and thrive because of it. So I'm going to leave you with another story here. I think about my mother, I think about my aunts. Growing up as a child, every holiday season, they would do cookie baking. And they wouldn't just bake a couple dozen cookies. No, they would bake 300, 400 dozen cookies, 30 different varieties of cookies. And they would make sheets and platters that they would give to all of their friends and all of their family members, to our pastor at the time, members of the congregation, and every single person every year who received these cookies were like, "This is amazing. You should go into business with this." Or if they didn't know that they made them, they would ask, "Did you make these? Or where did you buy these cookies? They're so good. I want to get some of these cookies." And my mother and my aunts would say, "Oh, we made them, we made them, we made them." Clearly, my mother and my aunts had a God-given talent for cooking. Not only was it a God-given talent, but they loved it. Like, they would come over to my house. I remember as a child sampling the cookies. I would go over and sneak in and eat it, right? It was delicious. But they were naturals. This was their God-given talent. And it's a shame, because they never went into business with each other to do these cookies. And now they're all in their 60s, and they're happy. They led a full, happy life, but as they're gearing up for retirement, in the back of their mind, they always have this: if we ever had come together, and it woulda, coulda, shoulda. And so that's why I want to encourage you, don't let that situation happen to you. And I'm not blaming my aunts and my mother. I love my mother, I love my aunts, and they still have plenty of time to do this. So if you're watching this, Mom, okay, you have plenty of time to do this. But don't let that happen to you. You don't want to end your life and stand before the Lord on Judgment Day, and He asks you, "What'd you do with your life, and what'd you do with the talents that I gave you?" Be like, no. Instead, I know for myself, I'm going to say, "Lord, thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for this moment here. I'm going to embrace. I'm going to probably be crying and tears, kissing His feet, everything." But I'm also going to talk about what I did with my life. I'm going to talk about what I did with the talents that He gave me, and using these talents in a way, in a means to be able to help my fellow man. And that is the lesson for today. So my brothers and sisters, entrepreneurs, future entrepreneurs, use your God-given talents that you were given, work hard with those talents, and live and lead an abundant life.